You're watching Rehatch Designs by Tina Williams, where I remake and update unwanted and discarded items into beautiful home decor in many different styles and in many different ways to resell in my booths or to use in my own home. So sit back and enjoy the video, and if you like it, please give me a thumbs up, a like, subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you'll know when I upload future videos. Thanks for watching. So let's just jump right into these. Project number 1. I have a frame that I picked up at a thrift store and I'm going to remake it. But first what I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and pour some molds with some resin, and I'm using fabric casts. You can buy that on Amazon. I'll put the link on there. It's a bit cheaper than Amazing Casting, and it works about the same. It does have a little faster cure time, so you have to be careful when you're working with it. And I have found that if you do not over stir it, it doesn't get quite as hard and you can mold it better. That was, I think, one of the things I had an issue with at first. So instead of stirring it for, a minute, do it for like 30 seconds and it will be more pliable when you're done for a little bit longer, and it won't set up quite as fast because I had an issue with it setting up so fast that I couldn't even use it all. And I'm using 2 IOD molds. I'm using the oak leaves mold and the Hello Pumpkins, and I got another one out that I just had out there just in case, because sometimes what happens is you pour your resin and you have too much, so I always have a backup or 1 or 2. And I went ahead and pour my molds, and I got my castings out. And this is the frame that I'm working with. I thrifted it for $1 at a thrift store, and it has a hard back on it. It doesn't have glass or anything, but I love these. These are perfect to use on things like this. You can also purchase the wood blanks that they have from IOD. I have some of those on my website. I don't believe I have it on my Etsy. I have a lot more stuff listed on my website than my Etsy. So if you don't find it on my Etsy, go look on my website. And they're both free shipping. So it really doesn't really matter which site you get it from. So anyway, what I'm doing now is I am just going to glue all of these down. And I'm just using my Titebond glue to use that. And I will put like a little tiny dab of hot glue on these bigger pieces just so that they don't move around while I'm putting all the little pieces on. And I probably did about 3 full castings of the mold. I don't use them all, but I use quite a bit. Anyway, so I'm heating up some of these that did not cure completely flat, and you can do that, and what that'll do is that'll make it conform better to your piece. Now, I will say that I can't heat these up enough to bend around something, but I can heat them up enough to be at least flexible enough that I can get them down to whatever I'm doing. And here what you see me doing is I had mixed up some salt wash and some paint, and the paint I'm using is Woodwick by Fusion, and I mixed it up with some salt wash. Salt wash is just an additive. Some people use baking soda to make it a little bit thicker because I want texture on this. I want quite a bit of texture. And I'm going in on all of the edges and painting all of those. And I painted the castings themselves with just the Woodwick without the salt wash. I didn't show that part, but I basically just went over it with just the plain Woodwick by Fusion. And it has a built-in sealer, so I'm not going to have to seal this after, because this is the first layer. I don't really care about perfect coverage, but it's going to cover extremely well because it's a darker color and it has the top coat and the base coat on there. So now what I'm doing is I am taking a flour sack by Sweet Pickens, and I'm going to mix some of that up to use on this. And this is what our frame looks like now. This woodwick is a really great color. It's kind of a cross between gray and a dark brown, but it's not like, so dark brown that it looks black. So I really like this to use it as a bottom coat, and also I use it on a lot of other things too. It's just a very neutral color. So I'm going to go ahead and mix my milk paint up, and I have a little container I got from the Dollar Tree. I love using these because it has a little top on there, and it keeps your paint from drying out too quickly when you're using it. And we're going to be using this on several projects. I do end up mixing more up, but on milk paint, you can only use it, for like a day or two, and it'll go bad on you. So you don't want to really mix more than what you're going to use. And it's 50 parts powder and then 50 parts water. Of course, you can change that up if you want your paint to be a little bit thicker. I sometimes put a little extra in there. But one way to get it a little bit thicker is also just to wait a little bit and then go ahead and, it'll thicken up on its own. So anyway, I'm just using a little mixer thing here that I got and a little whisk, mixing it up really good. And then I'm taking a little stir stick to make sure I got everything off of the bottom. And I mix it really well. And I do let it set for about, 3 or 4 minutes before I do anything. But I am going to go ahead and paint this whole frame with this Sweet Pickens flour sack. And I am not looking for perfect coverage. I'm only going to be doing one coat. I'm going to allow some of the brown to peek through. I'm going to mostly cover it, but if some of the brown is not completely covered, or some of the woodwick, that's okay with me. So I just go over the whole thing, and like I said, I'm not going for perfect coverage here. So what I didn't show you is that as that was drying, I used my heat gun on the milk paint to help it dry, and it causes it to have a lot more cracks. I'm going to do that in a project in the later on in the video to show you. And what I just did there with that decoupage paper is I kind of marked it with my fingers and went all the way around it just to form a crease to let me know where I need to cut it. And now what I'm doing is I am pouring a little bit of Sweet Pickens dark oil wax. You're going to start seeing me use this an awful lot, guys, because I love how it looks on milk paint, and I'm using a lot of milk paint lately because I love milk paint now, and I'm also loving this dark oil wax. And then Fusion has one too that is, it's not as dark as this, but it definitely has a good use with milk paint. I'll show you another project with that. But anyway, this is very liquid. You know, it's not like a regular wax paste, so it's very easy to apply on these castings. So I'm just taking a stiff brush that I have. It's really a wax brush, but it works great on this because it gets right into all the crevices and everything. And I'm just putting this very liberally on the whole thing. I have not treated this milk paint, so this color, the oil wax, is going to definitely absorb into it, and it's going to change it from that stark white to a kind of a beigey color. And I wanted to do that. And if you don't want it to change the color of your paint, then you would want to seal it first and then put the oil wax on. But I purposely did it this way so that it would, you know, change it to more of a beigey neutral color, because the flour sack is a pretty white color. And now I'm just taking my rag, and this is just a nice soft rag. I bought a bunch of these on Temu, and I love using them. They don't shed or anything. And I'm going through, it's dry, and I'm going to go through and I wipe off a good portion of that oil wax, and but I'm leaving it in all those crevices. So then I'm taking my paper again and making sure it's creased right, and I'll take some water and a paintbrush and go around the edges where I creased it, and I'll start just basically tearing it because I want a rough edge on my decoupage paper. And I'll just go around and kind of pull it with my fingers so that it has a rough edge to it. And this is a rice paper, so it has like that little frayed edge to it. You could certainly cut this straight if you wanted to put in there. So it's going all the way around. And then I just use my Paint Couture decoupage medium, and I love it in the matte. I love this stuff. I just, because it dries so matte, and if that's the look you're going for. And then I put it on top later, and of course it goes down perfectly. I'm not worried about any bubbles or anything like that. I'm just basically using my fingers. I didn't even do anything else. And then what I did is I went over this when I was done with some gilding wax from Dixie Belle Bronze. And I actually kind of thought it was a little bit too brown. So then I took the Copper Metallic by Fusion. And this is their, it's not a gilding wax, it's just a paint. And I'm kind of dry brushing it on all of these leaves, because I kind of felt like I wanted the bronze to show through, but I wanted a little bit of copper too because of the colors in this decoupage paper. So you tell me if you think I should have just left it all white, if I should have not done the bronze, maybe just the copper. Anyway, this is what I end up doing. I like it in the end, but I was kind of, you know, I wasn't really sure. At first I was just going to leave it all just the off-white with the wax. But anyway, I think in the end it turned out really pretty. This is the finished project. And you can certainly see all the cracking and everything in there. And I did put a little bit of the bronze around the edges and a tiny bit of the copper just to kind of pull it all together. I love how this looks. I think it's a really, really nice rustic. It's still very neutral, even though it does have some color in it. It's not that bright, you know, in your face orange or, you know, bright red colors. So now we're on to project number 2. And all of these projects are kind of made to go with each other in a vignette. So you could basically do the same thing to all of these and tweak them up however you want. So these are these little, the little pillar candle holders that you get from Dollar Tree. And I have 3 of them. And I'm going to go over these with that same salt wash and fusion mixture that I had before, the wood wick and the salt wash. And I had made a bunch of it when I made it. And then I'm going to go over those 3 candle holders with that. And then I bought these pumpkins at the Dollar Tree. And I am going to go over all of those with 1 coat of this wood wick as well. And it covers really well. Of course, the fusion paint has a sealer in it and a base coat. And it is a dark color. So it really only takes 1 coat. And I think on the orange one, I had to go in and touch up a little bit. But mainly it was just spots that I missed. So this will cover everything extremely well. And I go over the whole thing with that and let it dry. And it does not take long when you add the salt wash additive to it. And I do have salt wash too. You guys, I am trying to get everything on my website, but we are in the midst of still, getting our 3 booths ready. And I will give you a booth tour when I'm done with those. But it has been a process, let me tell you. I took a lot on. So anyway, I'm going to go over the whole thing and make sure that I get in those little crevices and things like that because, again, this is going to be just the bottom coat, but I don't really want any of the orange or the green. The white wouldn't be so bad, but I don't want any of those bright colors showing through here. I'm just trying to make a kind of a neutral vignette here, and you do need to kind of go over it, get all that color out of it. I will be doing other fall things with the more traditional colors, but I thought I would start out with this. I think this is just a little different, and I am going to be using this in my own home. So this is going to be my fall decorating, and I don't know, for some reason I'm showing you all of the painting, but anyway, I put this in a can upside down to dry because, there really was no other way. And it also helped me paint it. I had these little cans lying around. So anyway, my hands are a hot mess, but I do go over it all and make sure I get it all covered. And I think I let it dry for about an hour, before I moved on to the next step. So now what I'm doing is I let it all dry for about an hour, and it is on there nice and good. It's not coming off. And I am using my Fix-All from the Dollar Tree. I use this stuff all the time. It works extremely well. I think it's equivalent to like E6000, but I like that it comes in the smaller tubes. And I'm going to just glue that on. I think I put a dot of hot glue on there with it, but I do that on all 3 of them. And I think I left them overnight actually to dry. And if you notice, I'm actually gluing the pumpkin to the bottom of the candle holder, not the top, the part where you put the candle, because there's more flat surface. And I know that more glue will get on the pumpkins. And I do that to all 3 of them. And I'll touch up any paint that I need to touch up anywhere. But I let those dry overnight because we're going to be handling them quite a bit. And I want to make sure that it's on there really good. So now what I'm doing is I am taking my oak leaves mold. And I'm going to go ahead and do some castings in clay. And I'm using the IOD clay, which again I have available on my website, just not on my Etsy, I don't believe. Anyway, so I'm going to probably do, I think, I do about 3 whole castings of this mold to have enough to put on each of these pumpkins. And basically, it's pretty easy. You just go and put the clay in. I did put some cornstarch down first. You can see it in there. And I dusted it with cornstarch. You put your clay in, and then you can, because it IOD has that little rim, you can go with your thumb and take the excess clay off and get that off. I actually use I have a lot of those transfer sticks, and I use those just to kind of scrape across the top of the mold. And what that does is it flattens it out, and it also takes off the excess clay. You could use a credit card or, a bone folder or anything like that. And I go through and I make enough. I think I did 3 whole sets. I'm not exactly sure how many I did. I don't really remember. But anyway, I did a lot. But I absolutely love working with clay. You see me use the resin more because when I'm doing videos, most of the time I can't always wait overnight for things to dry. But I love using clay. I love the feel of working with it. I think it just reminds me of, your art projects when you were young. But I also just like the idea that it conforms to shapes so well. And because these pumpkins are obviously very rounded, it would be extremely difficult, if not impossible, to use resin. So definitely this is a clay situation here. And I am using this mold, the oak leaf mold, because the leaves on this are quite a bit bigger than on the Hello Pumpkin mold. And I think that they go extremely well with this with these pumpkins. And then I'm also going to be using all the little acorns and things on the side. So you'll see me do that. So now that I have all of my castings made, I'm going to take some Type Bond glue again, and I'm going to start spreading it all over my castings. Make sure I get all the way to the ends. And I'm going to start putting all of these down on my pumpkins. And I'm using the big leaves on the top. And I'm definitely conforming all of this to the pumpkin as much as possible. I do put a dot of glue on some of the larger pieces so they won't slide while they're drying. You don't have to do that necessarily. You can use tape, or you can just, use gravity. I realize on the ones on top later, I really don't need to do that, but I do it on the ones on the side of the pumpkin, just because I don't want them to slide down as they're drying. I want to give that Type Bond time for it to dry. And I just basically go around trying to figure, on top I use the big leaves, and on the side I use the acorns and the little branches with the acorns, just to give it some definition. And I just play around and figure out where I want to put them. They're all 3 similar but not the same, and I just have fun with it. So after I do the top pieces with the leaves, I start going around the sides, and I'm basically I'm adding basically the pieces with the acorns on the side, and I'm putting some loose acorns and things, and I do put a dot of hot glue on those for sure because of gravity. I don't want them to fall. And I let them dry for about an hour, and then I go back in with my Fusion wood wick. This is without the salt wash, and I'm going over all of my castings, and then I'm going to let them dry overnight. And what that does is it helps prevent cracking. Although in this situation, cracking would not be bad because that's kind of the look of the whole project. So a little cracking here and there is not a bad thing, but I do go over it with my paint and let it dry overnight. I don't really want to use a stiff brush on this. I'm using a very soft bristled brush and going all over it. And if it doesn't have 100% coverage, that's okay. I can go back the next day. The main purpose on this is just to make sure that I'm covering all of my castings, and I do that on all 3 pumpkins. So this is the next day. I let them dry overnight. I went around all my castings with a small brush with a little bit of the wood wick and salt wash to kind of fill in any gaps. And now what I'm doing is I'm mixing up some more of my Fusion milk paint. I mean, not my Fusion, my Sweet Pickens milk paint flour sack. I'm going to just mix up a little bit more. And then we're going to go ahead and use that on all 3 of these pumpkins. And this is going to be a little bit trickier simply because these are made of styrofoam. So using your heat gun on them is a little bit trickier. But I do that. So you'll see that in here. So I'm going to go over all of these, and I'm not looking for perfect coverage. It's okay if some of the wood wick shows through. In fact, I want it to, and I'm going to go over all 3 pumpkins with that. So as these are drying, I actually am using my heat gun, but I am making sure that I am moving it constantly because, as I said, these are styrofoam. But because we have the 2 layers of paint on there and salt wash, it does have a bit of a buffer, and it does help it crackle quite a bit. And if you can see, isn't that beautiful? So, but if you notice, I am definitely moving this around. I am not holding it in one place. And then now I'm going to take my wonderful dark oil wax by Sweet Pickens. Love, love, love this stuff. I mean, you could use a wax on this. It's just harder to deal with than this oil. As far as getting it in all the crevices and everything. You could also use like a glaze on this. You could definitely do some watered down paint. But anyway, I just love this stuff. Love it, love it, love it. And when you see it in the video, it looks real shiny, but it dries very matte. So it really it lends itself to this overall just old and rusty kind of crusty look that it. Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna have to buy this stuff by the gallon. Anyway, like I said, hopefully in a few weeks I'll have all this stuff on my website, but it is available out there, and it's great stuff. If you love using milk paint, which once you start using it, you'll love it. It just gives a completely different look than just anything else. And I'm going to go all over it. I go over the bottom portion, the candlestick. And if you notice, that thing's not going anywhere. And that glue held it down. And I really manhandled this. So now what I'm doing, I'm sorry I'm a little off camera, is I am taking my soft rag, one of my soft rags again. And it is completely dry. And I'm wiping off a good portion of this. But what's going to happen is that wax is going to stay in all the little crevices. And I think I don't show you this. In the very end, I go with a very fine line paintbrush and I go in all those little pumpkin crevices and I kind of add a little definition with the oil wax. It's just turned out absolutely beautiful. But anyway, I basically just rub all of a good portion of this off. What's great about it is it's so lightweight and fine that it goes in all those little cracks that you got with your heat gun. And if you get too much and you can't get it off with your rag, I just use a baby wipe and I wipe it down a little bit more and it takes a little bit more of it off. You just do it to what you like. So here they are. I absolutely love how these turned out. I thought about putting bronze or copper on it, but I decided to leave them the way they are. You tell me what you think. I think I love these. I think they love all the little cracks. And I don't know. You can't get that look with anything else. Even if you use crackle, it just looks so natural, and then that oil wax. So, like I said, if y'all want any of these products and I don't have it listed yet on my website, just let me know in the comments and I'll pop it on there for you. But oh wow, I love this stuff. So now project number 3 is along the same lines. Y'all are going to get tired of looking at it. It's a little different, but not much. But anyway, I bought this at Hobby Lobby. It was $9.99 and then, it was 40% off. So relatively cheap. And it had like the little, rope ends on it, which I end up putting it back on there, but you can't do the project with the rope on there. So okay, so these are from the Hello Pumpkins. I don't have that one. I do have the oak leaves mold. I got a ton of those. In fact, I probably ordered too many of those on my website and my Etsy. But I do know the Hello Pumpkin was from last year. That's why I don't have it. But I do know there are lots of stockists out there that have it. I've seen them out there. And they're not one of those things that are overpriced because there's hardly anything out there. There's quite a few of them. So you can pick that up. But anyway, we cast these when we did the other castings earlier. And I'm going to go ahead and glue that on with some Tite Bond glue. And then I'm going to add just a couple of dots of the hot glue. And I'll just put all of those on. And I give it about an hour or two to dry before I move on to the next step. Even though I'm only putting the hot glue on there because of gravity. I don't want this to, fall. Although, honestly, I could have just laid it on its side and it would have dried just fine. But I got my hot glue gun going at all times. So why not use it, right? And that Type Bond will hold it. So anyway, I think I end up moving this around or something because I want them I don't want them identical, but I want them kind of symmetrical, opposite sides. I'm making this as something that you would put like in the middle of a table. And I'm always very, very conscious when I do that it look good on both sides. Because I want, people on each side of the table to have a nice view of my project. So anyway, that's what I'm doing here. And I make sure I do that on both sides and we glue it all down. So after I let those dry for about an hour and they're on good, I am taking some of that salt wash mixture of Fusion wood wick and just some salt wash, and I'm going over all of the entire piece with it and going around all the edges. I'm not really going over the castings with it. I don't want to lose the definition in the castings. Usually I don't use that on there, but I'm going over the entire piece because I really want that texture on there. I want this to look like a really old piece. And when you look at a really old piece that's been around, that's been painted multiple times, it looks very like it's crusty, and you get some of that with the milk paint. But if you add that salt wash to your first coat, it'll definitely give it that look. So what I'm doing here is I am mixing up some more milk paint, and I'm going to go over the whole thing with it, and I'm putting it on nice and thick. I think I mixed this up a little bit thicker because I want a lot of crackling. I'm even doing the bottom. Whenever I make these pieces, I kind of don't glue my flower arrangements in the bottom, and I just put the foam in. And I want it to look good, when you take everything out too. So I do whatever I'm going to do on the sides to the bottom, to the insides, everything. I go over the whole thing. And so we're going to cover the entire thing, including the bottom. Okay, so now I'm taking my heat gun and I'm blasting this thing with heat, and you can really, I tried to get in nice and close here so you can really see the effects of the milk paint and that crackle. It's wonderful. You can't really achieve that. I love a good crackle mixture, but it's different than the milk paint. The milk paint is very fine little crackles. Sometimes it'll be big chips and stuff, but if you use a paint with a sealer on it, a sealer in it, or seal your paint before you put the milk paint on, usually it doesn't flake off as much. Now I'm just taking that same dark oil wax, which I am in love with. The combination of milk paint and the dark oil wax, you just cannot beat it. And they have it in different colors too, by the way, if you don't like it that dark. So I'm going over the whole thing with it and making sure it's in all the little crevices, and of course wiping it back. And I think I take a little bit too much off and I go back and put more in. This does give you a little bit of time, but if you do not want it to soak into your paint that much, then you would just put a sealer on your paint first and let it dry, and then it won't soak in as much. But I definitely wanted it to have the effect that it is, that it's changing the color of the paint, making it darker, and really getting in all those crevices. So after I do that and let it dry, I'm going on to the last part of this where I'm going to do my flower arrangement. And these are just the Dollar Tree little foam things. And it takes about 3 of them in there. Actually, these are some of those little pieces. And I'm putting all those in there. And as you can see, I did not glue it in. I don't normally ever glue them in. I just kind of figure, maybe the person might want to change it up next year and put different flowers in it or something. So I'm putting in all of these flowers. They are all from either the Dollar Tree or Walmart. I tried to make sure that I did not spend more than $15 on flowers for this whole thing, because I'm trying to keep the cost of this to around $20 to $22. Just because if for resale, if I were to sell this, I would sell it for about $45 to $50, and I want to at least be able to make double. One thing that's hard to do is any type of flower arrangements or wreaths or whatever. It is very hard to do that in a cost-effective way for resale. I am personally going to use this in my home, but if I decide to resell it, I want to make sure that I can at least get, double of what I put into it. And so you really don't want your total cost to be over like 20 to 25. I can get 45 to 50 easily for this arrangement when I get done. So, but if I were to put more expensive things in it, I think it would probably jack up the price a little bit. But anyway, what I do when I do my arrangements is I put the large pieces in first, the larger flowers, and then I start filling in with the medium, and then I go to the small, and I just start adding and layering, and I will do that, and I try and make it symmetrical, but I definitely move things around a lot when I do any kind of flower arrangements, and I am definitely not a professional, but I just look for some symmetry in it. And I love using my Lazy Susie on that because I will go and spin it around and make sure it looks good from all sides. And as I said, I'm adding in, these are mainly all kind of neutral colors for this because I'm sure you figured it out by now. The theme is neutral. So I'm going to go in and add all of the flowers in first. And now I'm adding in some of these are like the longer picks. I kind of do those next to last. And I'll put a few of those in here or there and add a little height. I'm keeping this kind of as a low flower arrangement, even though it's a pretty big arrangement, because this is, to me, something you'd put in on a dining room table, and I keep moving things around, that's one reason, too, I don't necessarily glue in the flowers. I do sometimes on wreaths and things, but I try not to if I don't have to, because I don't always know where, I tweak this thing to the very end. So one of the last things I do is I add greenery, and I always add as high end looking greenery as I can, because I think that is what really makes the piece look more high end, is the greenery, if it looks good. And if some of the greenery on the flowers or the picks look bad, I pull them off. And I make sure that I fill in with lots of greenery that I like later. These picks are from Walmart, and they run out of these all the time, so I think I'm not the only one that likes these. I think it says eucalyptus, but to me it looks more like a boxwood. But anyway, I'm putting a lot of that in there, filling it in and moving it around. And then I'll add some more longer pieces in there in the end. And that's, just kind of move it around until I think it looks good. And that's pretty much all I do. My greenery in, and now I'm adding a few of these little pumpkins that I got from the Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to put them on. I have 2 different sizes. At least my Dollar Tree is carrying these now. And I love that they're doing that neutral fall thing. Excuse me. So I'm going to add a few of those all around, and I add a few more of these little wispy pieces that they're kind of a yellowish gold color, and that's kind of what we're going for here. Anyway, this is it. This is how it looks when it's done. I think it turned out really, really pretty. Very neutral looking. It has a little bit of color, but it's subtle. And you gotta love all that crackle in that wood piece there. Love it, love it, love it. And as I said, I'm going to actually use this in my own home. So this is something that I will love. I might sell it eventually, but if I did, I would go 55, probably maybe 60, 65 for this. In my area, it will sell very quickly. I don't know, maybe I'll make another one, I'm not sure, but anyway, I love it. Love the colors in it. And again, I did both sides, so here's the other side too. So thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this, and I am going to try and start putting out videos on Tuesdays and Fridays. So stay tuned for that, and I hope to see you again next time. And thanks for watching.